So right now we go into social awareness. What is social awareness? Social awareness talks about how do you feel? How do you feel? Remember, self-awareness is how do I feel? Self-regulation is how do I deal? Social awareness is how do you feel? That is beyond how you feel, how you deal. You need to understand how other people feel too. And that's why it's important that you understand self-awareness as the foundation for emotional intelligence. If you have not learned how to recognize emotions in yourself, there is no hope of you learning how to recognize emotions in other people. And like I said earlier as well, some folks are colorblind, but a lot of people are emotion blind. They don't see emotions in people. They're not able to read emotions, body language, and all those other things that help in making you a very intelligent person emotionally. And so what are the things that you need to improve to be able to improve your social awareness? 4 strategies I'll be sharing with you today as we improve our emotional, or rather our social awareness in a bid to improve our emotional intelligence. Number 1, learn to greet people by name or learn people's names. That's simple, all right? A person's name is the most melodious and the most sentimentally attached thing to that person. They are so emotionally attached and sentimentally attached to their names that no matter how ugly in quote it may sound, no matter how bad it may look or whatever it is, that name is so important to them. And you cannot afford to treat the name with any less importance than you treat the person, because they are so attached to their names. And so the first step in making someone feel important is to learn the person's name. No matter how unstickable that name is, learn the person's name. And one of the tips that I'll share with you is this. Whenever someone tells you his or her name, create a conversation around that name. Tell the person about someone else who you know that bears that name. That's one. For example, if the name is a popular one and you know someone who already bears that name in your circle of influence, mention that person and perhaps remember the similarities between that person and this new person you are just learning the person's name. I tell you the truth, that simple conversation will make that name stick in your mind. And if it's a completely new name, whenever the person tells you the person's name, ask for the person's state of origin, wherever the person is, hails from and all of that. Understand where the person came from, understand the etymology of the name, the meaning of the name, who gave him or her the name, if it's the mother, the grandmother, the father, whatever it is, all right? Once you learn something about that name, the uniqueness of that name, the likelihood of forgetting that name becomes very, very slim. And so learn people's name. The moment you're able to learn someone's name, trust me, the next time you're about to speak to that person, let's say 2-3 months down the line, and then you call the person by the name that they told you they bear, trust me, it makes such a huge impact and impression on the person whose name you have remembered. It's important. And so if you have to keep saying, what's that your name again? You are losing people's respect and your ability to influence them begins to wane. If you remember people's name once after they tell you, you remember it once. Like you don't have to ask them, what's your name again? Trust me, the way they respect you, the way they regard you would increase, and your likelihood of influencing them positively will significantly increase as well. And so it's important that you learn people's, and that's the first social skill you must learn. No matter how many names you're learning, you can learn as many names as possible. Your mind is such an elastic matter. That is, every single name you have ever heard in your life, you can store it up in your mind. And it's such a powerful tool. And it really, really improves your ability to be socially aware and connect better with people. Number 2, understand body language. A lot of people do not understand body language, and this is so sad. Because you see, human beings communicate a lot with their body language. I remember, growing up under a Yoruba mom, there is a way they teach you to be sensitive, not just to their words, but to their body language, especially their eyes. So a visitor comes to the house and gives you cash or gives you something, gives you food, gives you biscuits or whatever it is. And then you are so quick to pick it up. But before you pick it up, you look at your mom's face. Right there, she's with you. She's in front of the visitor. The visitor is right there in front of both of you. But the visitor cannot even grasp the slightest idea of the communication and the bandwidth of conversation that is going on between yourself and your mom, because she said a ton of things just with the use of her eyes. And that's body language. She didn't have to say anything, but she already told you, do not collect that thing. Or if you collect it, take it to the fridge already. Or if you collect it and take it to the fridge, you don't eat it until another 6 hours. She has said all of those things without ever using her words. You see, that's how powerful body language is. It communicates a lot more than our words. And the truth is this: if you ever have to choose between the truthfulness of a statement, if there is the truthfulness of, people communicate primarily via these two means: verbal communication and body language, right? Now, if you have to choose which one to go with respect to the truthfulness of that statement, go with body language. No one can lie with their body language. I'll say that again. You cannot possibly lie with your body language, except you're a sociopath or something who has, tremendous amount of experience in manipulating people through body language and all of that. But ideally, you cannot lie with the body language. So if someone is excited talking to you, the body language will show that she's excited talking to you. If someone is managing the conversation, the body language will show. Even though the tone of voice may say, oh, I'm excited talking to you, I like talking to you, I enjoy this conversation, the body language may be saying something completely different. And so you must learn how to read body language to be an effectively intelligent person in the social space. When you get into a gathering and people are communicating in a certain way or giving you feedback for whatever it is you're saying. For example, let me give you this very quick example. As a speaker, you go into a space and then you're talking. You don't need anybody to tell you what you're saying is making people sleepy, right? Just because people have not actually slept off. If you're waiting for people to sleep off before you figure out that whatever it is you're saying is not as exciting to the audience you're speaking to, that means you're low in your social awareness skills. You must be able to pick up body language. Somebody yawns, somebody looks at you in a way that the eyes are almost closing up, or someone is chatting, or whatever it is. Those are body languages. Those are things that people are saying to you to tell you that whatever it is you're saying, if you don't change the topic, if you don't put in a joke, if you don't make an illustration, we're not likely going to stick with you in this speaking journey. We'll go about our own different businesses. Because the truth is, the reason why a lot of people don't stand up in the middle of a conversation, in the middle of a speech, is because they are stuck with you in that space for that period of time. And so you must not be the kind of speaker that people are enduring hearing you speak. You must be the kind of person that engages people from start to finish. And how you can do that is to respond to people's body language. And so when you notice that you've dragged on a particular subject for such a long time, introduce a story. Nobody sleeps over a story, especially a good one. Introduce a joke, introduce an illustration, introduce something that will captivate the minds of the people you're talking to. And so body language is very key. How to improve your social awareness. Number one, learn people's names. Number two, understand body language. Number three, make timing everything. What do I mean by saying make timing everything? You see, everything you have to say is important, quite all right. I have no doubt about that. However, the timing you attach to the things you say determines the kind of value or importance and the kind of effect those things you say will have on the people you're saying them to. And so, for example, your boss, you're in a context where you have a boss who just received a call from a mortgage bank threatening them of their properties. For example, your boss took a loan that she used or he used to facilitate the securing of the property that they use for business. And now the mortgage bank has called to say that if the loan is not paid back in 1 month, they will forfeit the building, and that means business closed. Now your boss is worried, petrified, feeling like, oh my God, how am I going to survive? How are we going to get the money we need to pay back this loan? He or she's already even thinking about to get into another loan, to pay up a loan. And the cycle continues and all of that. The interests are mounting up. He or she's not able to pay salaries and all of those things. These are the realities of the regular entrepreneur out there. And so sometimes you need to also empathize with the bosses and with the entrepreneurs that you do business with, those that you call your superiors. They are usually under tremendous amount of pressure per time. And so this person receives a call from a mortgage bank trying to figure out how to pay the loan back. And then you are the personal assistant. You walk into the office and you have absolutely no regard to the appropriateness of whatever it is you have to say in the context of how he or she or his or her day is going. There is no way you will not get a backlash, a reactionary response. All right. So you come in and say, do you still want tea? Come on, that's not the thing he or she wants at that time. Your boss is not looking for tea at that point except she asks for it. And so that simple question, is this a good time, will save you a lot of heartache. So you don't just barge into people and start talking about the things you have, interest in talking about with them. You don't just barge into someone and start talking about the things you think are important to be talked about. You don't just barge into someone and hijack the person's calendar, hijack the person's schedule, hijack the person's time, and have no recourse as to whether it is an appropriate time for such a conversation in light of the person's context of how his or her day is going. And so it's important that you make time in everything. And this question will save you a lot. Is this a good time? Oh, it's fine, you can come in. That already permits you, approves the kind of conversation you want to have. Rather than just going into your boss's office and start talking as though you have no sense of regard for his or her own privacy. And so it's important that you read body language, know the kind of mood whoever it is you're talking to is. So you go into a space with blacks, for example, and then you begin to make some snide comments about the black heritage. There's no way you're going to get the respect of the people you're speaking to. It's important that you understand how to navigate people's emotions, to be able to pay attention to what you're saying. And one way you do that is with effective timing in communication. Some things are meant for the last. Don't make them the first. Don't put the cart before the horse. Always make time in everything. The person who has skilled himself or herself in timing his conversation will be the most effective in communicating intent and power with his words. The last thing I'll be sharing with you on how to improve your social awareness, the fourth strategy, is to practice listening. This is so key. This is so key. I cannot overemphasize this. In another training, you will learn about empathy, but it's impossible for you to empathize with anyone if you're not willing to listen, if you're not willing to, engage the person on a much more personal terms, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. Listen to the person. Someone is upset about something. Can you not just also flip the handle and start talking and start giving your feedback? You see, what happens a lot of times is that a lot of people are simply waiting for their turn to speak. They're not actively listening to the person speaking. And so you need to practice listening. What is listening? Listening is an active participation in any conversation. That is, it is not just your ears that are participating. Your mind is participating. Your body is participating. You're nodding. You're looking into the person's eyes. You're hearing. You are nodding. You're affirming what the person is saying. You're making some statements to show that, yes, you are listening, and even listening and hearing much more than what the person is saying. You see, if you do not listen, you're not likely going to hear much more than what the person speaking is saying. Because if you're not listening, the likelihood that you even hear all the person is saying is very low. Talk more of hearing more than the person is saying. And so you must learn to practice listening. So when you get into an audience, don't be quick to speak. Be slow to speak. Be quick to listen. Be quick to hear. All right, that should be your mantra. So you get to meet someone for the very first time. Don't talk about yourself for the first 1 hour. Talk about how awesome you are, the kind of school you went to, your pretty dog, your pretty car, your pretty house. Really, you're not the most important thing in the world, all right? Always put that preference on the person you're talking to. Put that preference on the other person. Let the person feel free to talk to you. Let the person feel free to talk about his or her own hobbies, his or her own interests. That way, you are likely going to gain the person's trust and confidence, and the ability that you will eventually have to influence the person eventually will greatly be increased. And so it's important that you learn to listen genuinely to people. You see, you can't listen without having a selfless attitude, a selfless heart, a humble heart that is always willing to put others first. If you're always about yourself, you will not be a listener at all. And listening is the chief communication skill. You cannot be a great communicator if you're not a great listener. And so for you to be effective at, perceiving the emotions of a people, an audience, a gathering, another person apart from yourself, you must learn these 4 powerful strategies that would improve your social awareness skills significantly. The last thing we'll be talking about is relationship management. This is the crux. This is the entire purpose of our understanding and learning all these 4 key competence areas in emotional intelligence. It is so that you can learn to manage relationships more effectively. You really want to listen to this.